So what's this session? Just so you know, you're in the right place. First of all, thanks for coming at the end of the day. I know what stands between alcohol and you is me. So with that, and in a way, I'm standing between myself and alcohol too. So with that, I'm going to talk about today is largely around how many of you are familiar with ITSI in this room, just to get a hands, have seen it before? Okay, well this is a bit of an intro session to ITSI around what it is, what it's for, and how you get started. But a bulk of the end of it is a full ITSI demo. And I will do a bit of a scenario plus harbor tour, because I basically want to show you a bunch of features. I won't be making too many forward-looking statements, but I guess I have to show this slide. I'm pretty sure you've seen all these. I am far away, so for those of you in the back who can't see me that well, that's my face. So let's get started. This slide, so originally I did not have this in my slide deck, but I kind of looked at it and I really, really did like it. What this slide shows is the percentage of companies that report serious outages in a 12-month period. In 2017, that number was 25% of organizations said that they had a serious outage, a very serious outage or degradation in the last 12 months. In 2018, that number grew to 31%. And if you only look at on-prem data centers, so that one, 2018 is, all these numbers are cloud plus on-prem. If you look at just on-prem data centers, that number shoots up to 48%. So almost half of the organizations on-prem and 31% overall in 2018 faced some sort of serious degradation. Serious degradation generally means it's in the news or it's affecting your revenue. It's, all kinds of stuff. And 80% of these could have been avoided because a lot of them were configuration changes, human error, and things like that. Now, this starts getting into why we built ITSI and what is ITSI for. You've seen these kinds of diagrams before where we show you a bunch of stacks, it's the layers of the stack in your environment. And what is difficult is when a problem happens, really trying to identify very quickly, well before it has impacted your revenue, well before it's impacted maybe even your internal customers, your users and teams. You want to be able to pinpoint whether it's an application issue, an infrastructure issue, or this or that. That's the primary reason why we embarked on this. And as we did that, we realized a couple of things. A lot of our customers said to us, you know what, our services are these. These are our business KPIs. For example, if you look at e-commerce, your KPIs are shopping carts abandoned, numbers of users finishing transactions, things like that, and actual revenue. Revenue is pretty much a key business metric for every business. But if you look at it, there's also customer satisfaction. There's ways to measure that. So a lot of different businesses have ultimately lots of different top business level KPIs. And that's what really matters. So when an outage happens, there are a couple of issues. A, you don't know if it affects the business. Should you take this seriously? There's no way of, it's very difficult to do that. And secondly, how do I quickly get to the root cause of the problem that I am facing? And that's what we're trying to solve. I want to be clear, I don't want to say that ITSI is going to be the sort of panacea for everything. There are organizations that have to rethink sometimes how you're structuring yourselves, how you're getting data into Splunk, or can you get a lot more data into Splunk because of various different reasons. Because if you want to have a full stack view of your environment, you need to know what all the components are of that stack and then pull the data from that stack together. Now, before I jump into ITSI, given that we've acquired SignalFX, I do want to sort of preface this with who are we targeting? Who is this for? I think you may have seen these. Some of you who've been to the IT Super session may have seen this slide. For those of you who haven't, the same version of this slide is with a white black background. This is sort of the transition many of our customers that we survey are making from on-prem all the way to cloud. This also means cloud native. So there is lift and shift where customers jump onto the cloud with their existing product, just dump it onto Azure or AWS or GCP. But ultimately, their goal is to get to that final endpoint, which is a truly cloud native architecture. And in doing this, your organization and your structure of your teams is changing too. So it's not like your teams stay the same. In this world, it is very common to see dev and ops as very separate teams. Dev is throwing code over the wall, ops is saying, what the hell is this, right? That's what's going on. In that world, in our experience, and I want to be clear that no organization looks exactly like one of these. It is always some sort of mixture of it. Often I talk to a lot of customers and I say, where do you fit into this? Some will say we're truly cloud native, and if they're truly cloud native, they just are that. That's how they began. Like, this is not our, I'm not necessarily saying this is our customer. I'm using the example of Netflix. It started on the cloud, that's how they are. But if you look at a lot of the insurance organizations, financial services, e-commerce, companies that we deal with, they're not necessarily cloud native, which means they've started somewhere here. They may have a cloud, they have a cloud offering, but their data center may be on-prem. And they're making this transition also in their team. So you query a customer like this saying, where are you? Well, 95% is the central IT team. We're trying out this 5% with this new DevOps team that we built. So you'll see a varying, percentages of what you hear. But generally, you see this transition to the cloud consistently across all the organizations that we talk to. So given this is the case, what is our portfolio and why am I talking to you about ITSI and how does it fit in? So if you look at the same sort of retain, optimize all the way to re-architect / cloud native, where does our portfolio really fit in at this moment in time? This will evolve as SignalFX becomes more part of our portfolio and integrated and so on. Where does ITSI fit in today for you? ITSI fits in as you are making the transition to the cloud. That does not mean that ITSI is only for on-prem customers, nothing like that. I'm saying that if you are a customer that is considering or in the process of making a transition to the cloud, you're often going to have a smattering of different technologies in your environment, including cloud environments that you're trying to monitor. And the best you're trying to do is, how do I get an overview of everything in this environment? It's so complex. What do I do? That's what ITSI is for. And that's who we're targeting. I'm not going to focus too much on Splunk Phantom. We can talk about it at the end today if you'd like to talk about Phantom and ITSI or VicTrops. But I'm going to focus mostly on ITSI and SAI. Predominantly, it's all under the ITSI umbrella. So that's my focus today. How many of you have heard of AIOps? Just a few? All right. I want to sort of demystify. You've seen lots of, this is a conference. I'm sure you've seen thousands of constructs and slides and drawings. I want to pull a few of those together. You have seen from us in the past, investigate, monitor, analyze, and act. I think you've seen this in our slides at some level. I want to put that together and say, how does it map onto AIOps? They're all fairly straightforward concepts. It is all about monitoring, engagement, and then automation of some form. That is Gartner's definition of AIOps in a sort of an image, and with a platform that is based on has big data fundamentals and has machine learning applied to all those three different pillars. There's no specificity around, therefore, what exact ML do you apply to what use case. So we take a very similar approach. Again, not earth-shattering. It is find a problem, investigate a problem, or automatically fix a problem. Right? That's really what we're talking about. And Splunk is an AIOps solution. ITSI is a major component in monitoring and investigation of this diagram. I'm going to power through these because these are going to be take-home slides for you. What do we mean by AIOps? Everything over here. So, feel free to take pictures of this. Feel free to sort of wait for the PowerPoint slide when you get it. I'm going to speak predominantly. Sorry, well, go back. We'll let you take pictures. There you go. Let me know. Give me a bit of thumbs up when you're done taking pictures. Thumbs up? All right. So what am I going to focus on today? Predominantly on ITSI, which is in the monitoring space. You'll notice the words ITSI and SAI, Splunk App for Infrastructure. I'll use them interchangeably. Really, it's only about ITSI because ITSI will get some of those capabilities over the next few months. Let's talk about the journey that other customers have taken before I jump into what value you get, what are the use cases in ITSI, and then we'll jump straight into the demo. I like to show this because different customers have a different journey in ITSI depending on how their organization is and what they're trying to achieve with it. Most customers, at the minimum, are trying to be a bit more effective in how they do break fix. And for that, really, what I mean by that is, why don't I get a better event management solution than I have today? That's really, to demystify what that means, is give me a better manager of managers and help me with, in this case, Econocom is a good example. I'm just replacing my old event management solution with a new one. That's what I wanted. I got a 15% improvement in my SLA. That's what customers want. Most customers, though, are immediately targeting that middle thing over there, which says proactive. And proactive monitoring, the way I consider it is, it means that it doesn't mean that you don't have degradations. It doesn't mean that you've solved all the problems in your environment. It means that the moment a problem has begun, there's someone on it immediately. That's what it means. You're not getting serious Sev 1 incidents from customers or, it's not very apparent that everything's falling apart. You're on top of issues way more quickly and fixing them way, way more quickly before it even remotely impacts customers. Predictive is truly a place, and Dell's a good example of that. They were on stage today. I've worked very, very closely with them in their ITSI journey. And it's really quite impressive that before they had Splunk and then ITSI, they did have degradation on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, which were the two peak periods for Dell.com. And with ITSI, they basically now just don't have them during the peak period. Doesn't mean that they don't have problems, doesn't mean they don't have issues, but they find them way, way, way more quickly. And then finally, we have companies like Viasat, and I think recently, just a few hours back, there was a presentation by Allied Irish Bank, they were also talking about their predictive approach to ITSI. How do you actually predict a problem before it's even happened? So there's no actual indicator that will show you that a problem's happening, not remotely, not even a single error, nothing. But how do you predict a problem before it's happened? There are definitely a lot of customers, well, I wouldn't say a lot of customers. All the customers we talk to want to get there. I would say 10% of the customers more realistically get there, currently at least. Let's talk about the different, metrics we have seen from customers using our product, ranges of improvements they've seen in their operations today. What can ITSI do? I'm covering kind of the three pillars I showed you before. Effective, how much more can ITSI be how much more effective can ITSI be for event management? One of the main things that customers do when they use ITSI's event management use case, and by the way, we will get into all the use cases in a second, so it all clears up a little bit, is to basically reduce event storms or alarm noise, you name it, depending on how it's marketed and things like that. But it's about reducing alarm noise. Remember, this is all still very reactive data, and we've seen varying reduction in alarm noise depending on organizations and depending on all that stuff. But basically, somewhere between 70 to 95% of alarm noise reduction, and some customers say 98%. But my point being, a pretty high level of noise reduction to go from, let's say, 8 million events down to 100 or 200. 8 million in a month. Obviously, no one is getting 8 million in a day, but 8 million in a month to about 100 or 200. I've heard things like 60,000 events a day. No one can look at 60,000 events a day. It's impossible. So you need to cluster them, reduce that noise into something actionable. And that's a rough sort of measure we've got from the customers we closely work with. When it comes to the Dell story, you actually take a leap here. So you're saying now, you're not talking about how do I get better at what I do now. You're saying how do I change what I do? How do I look at my environment differently? So you take a look at some of those dashboards you have on the right side. The sort of holistic view of what's going on. You'll see many more in my demo. That's kind of where customers want to be when they think about ITSI. And it's quite interesting. It's glaring how much they will reduce their Sev1 incidents or global incidents, depending on what customers call it. And sometimes I ask the question, well, how did you get it down from that high to that low? I love my product, but it's not magic. What did you do? And the answer is very interesting because it's not like these organizations don't have other monitoring tools. They've got APM tools, they've got this, they've got that. They've been acquiring all these tools, but it's going back to the thing I first showed you, which is when a problem happens, how do you quickly get to the root cause? Or how do you even see in a concise and consistent way that this is the problem that's going to impact this business metric? If you don't have it all in one place, structured in a nice way to look at it and analyze it, you can't do that very quickly. And so you're spending a lot of time doing root cause analysis, going across 10 different tools to find out what the problem is. What ITSI really cuts through is that jumping through 10 different hoops to get to the right answer. That's its primary function. It does a lot of other stuff, but that's its absolute primary function. It's very, very, very good at that. So that's why you get these ridiculous, in a good way, ridiculous reduction in global incidents by 60%, 90%. That's a massive, massive change in how these companies operate. And then we've got several customers, as I said, about 10% of our customers, they use ITSI for predictive analytics. That's approximately the number that's the number that I would expect. Everyone wants to get there, but to be predictive, you have to give ITSI data, and it has to be relevant data to your services. So and also, not only that, you have to go through a couple of levels of setting up ITSI with good thresholds on your KPIs and so on. And there's automated ways to do that, but there's a bit of curing and tuning that you have to do before you get to predictive. But it is very, very effective, and it ranges between getting a 5-minute warning and a 45-minute warning. It is a bit variable there. We like to always say about an average of 30 minutes. Now, a lot of ITSI customers get, well, a lot of customers get ITSI as a means to modernize their tool set. So they may have an event management solution, a Netcool Omnibus, or a BMC TrueSight Event Manager, an OpenView, HP OpenView, you name it, these old, sort of older tools. And they want to not only get off that tools and move away from that license that they're paying, for support license that they're paying, but they also want to move to something that's a bit more modern. So they don't want to just replace their old solution with an equivalent new solution. They want something that has a future for them to change the way they do things, which is that proactive monitoring. So oftentimes it reduces to a tool spend for older solutions that they've been using. Let's talk now about the ITSI use cases. You'll start seeing a lot of this in the demo. You're going to see a full demo of pretty much everything in ITSI, including SAI. And I will say SAI and ITSI. Let me actually clarify one thing before I confuse the hell out of you through this presentation. The Splunk app for infrastructure, going to show of hands of who's familiar with what this is. Okay, fewer people. So the Splunk app for infrastructure, we launched it 2 years ago. Its goal was to be a consolidated experience for infrastructure monitoring. Our goal was always going to be to add more infrastructure monitoring capabilities to it. Specifically by that I mean domains that make it do storage monitoring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a consolidated. It already has several of them, like we just added VMware as of this release. But we've also started shipping this with ITSI and feature flagging things that you only get if you have the ITSI license. You don't get everything in SAI if you don't have the ITSI license, just to keep that clear. So, and you can see the trajectory where we're going, which is ITSI and SAI will become completely merged together over the next couple of months. You will not really see a visual difference between the applications. The goal of this application, though, and I want to take you back to the sort of diagram where you retain and optimize and all the way to lift and shift. The infrastructure we're trying to monitor here are for the types of companies where you obviously you'll self-identify where you stand in that, but those who are moving from where they were to a different place, not those who are completely cloud native. That's SignalFX. But when you have infrastructure that is varied across storage devices, network devices, Unix, Windows, Linux, and then a smattering of cloud instances, you may have a bit of GCP, a bit of AWS. That's what SAI is for, and that experience is for. Now it's subsumed in ITSI, which means you'll get access to it if you have the ITSI as well. The other use case in ITSI is event analytics and management. This is all around event noise reduction, alarm noise reduction. We apply both machine learning, but also manual methods to reduce that noise. I want to preface this with, if you looked at older solutions like Netcool Omnibus, you'd have to build about 10 or 20 rules in them to reduce alarm noise. With this, you're talking about 3 rules at best, not 100 rules, not 50 rules. 3 or 4 rules is sufficient to use this product because of the way our wildcarding works when you build these rules. These rules that you build in ITSI can use both machine learning or just filtering capabilities as you just type out a few regular expressions. Now, the reason why this is cool is because customers they get a UI-driven sort of rule building capability. A lot of other tools have the ability to build rules, but you have to write JavaScript and things like that. So the ease of use here is significantly higher than other solutions. You don't have to build services or KPIs or anything like that when you're using this in ITSI. Yes, you get value from it if you add that stuff, but this is truly a standalone product by itself sitting inside a bigger product. This is where customers are getting a lot more effective in delivering meeting their SLAs. We have tons of integrations online. I didn't want to put certain logos, so you'll see I've just put them in yellow backgrounds. But Nagios integrations, SNMP Traps, ServiceNow, BMC Remedy, all the APM tools that you care about, and many, many more. And really, it's all about feeding those alarms into ITSI, and then applying ITSI's filters and reducing that noise. Customers get a lot of value from this. And in fact, for many customers, this is the starting point for ITSI. They want to get to a vision where they are more proactive, but they're not there yet. Finally, the use case that I like to talk that is most popular in ITSI is service insights and monitoring. This is where you can get that holistic view, the fancy dashboards, both for executive teams, analysts, you name it. This is your 360-degree view. This is what, well, not the airport, but Dell uses a similar dashboard. Dell does not care about airports. What they care about is their e-commerce. They have a similar, what we call glass table. So the big one in the middle is called a glass table. We've had a major facelift to glass tables, which is currently in beta, will be GA fairly soon. And the biggest request we had with glass tables was, A, can you make it work a little nicer? The second request we had was, can I combine Splunk visualizations with ITSI visualizations in a single place? You can do that now with a new glass table framework. Very, very powerful because then you can really mix and match, and those are perfect executive level dashboards or even other analysts. Then we've got a ton of dashboards that can be both hierarchies or tiles or deep dive sort of analysis views, and very popular to get to that root cause very quickly. All the prediction and all that stuff is right here in this use case. Oh, this build's kind of weird. Maturity path, it varies. Some people, but the more common one we see is start with infrastructure monitoring, move to event analytics, and then service insights. This is not set in stone. Organizations will be different. Dell, for example, jumped straight to service insights with a bit of infrastructure monitoring data in it. They did not bother with event analytics. So that's a good example of how you can jump a level. But this is just a general view of how you could do this. So what's new in this release? Let's talk about how the journey we've actually taken. We launched ITSI in 2015 with the service insights use case around reducing time to resolve in a dramatic way. Event analytics in 2017, predictive analytics last year, and today we're saying we're going to subsume infrastructure monitoring within that same experience. That's where we're headed. What's new in ITSI today? Let's talk about this. AIOps, again, slight marketing lingo. This is combining SAI into ITSI. Express Cloud Delivery. This is pretty interesting because we spend a lot of time with our existing customers to enable things like hybrid action dispatch. Run ITSI on the cloud, manage on-prem environments with ITSI. That's what some of our customers are doing. So we enabled that and made that very much robust and very prescriptive in how you can set that up. Finally, last but not least, and you'll see some of this in the demo today, is get value in minutes for business and IT. What does this mean? We have revamped ITSI's content framework completely. A lot of customers came to us and said, I love ITSI, but can you not make some of these things more repeatable? Let me just take a content pack online for online banking or for mobile banking or for my e-commerce website and just dump it in so that I don't have to build all the glass tables, I don't have to build all the KPIs, all the services, and that kind of stuff. So that's going to, we're announcing that at this conf, and that's going to really continue on and become basically a massive ecosystem of content for ITSI. That's our goal. This is also ITSI. This is the SAI portion of ITSI. We announced virtual monitoring in SAI. This was part of the old Splunk app for VMware, for those of you who might know about it. We have started to put everything into SAI. So SAI, as you can see, is starting to become the central point for your, as I said, I will confuse you a little bit because I am myself a little confused as I talk about this. But SAI will start becoming, that experience will start becoming the central consolidated experience for infrastructure monitoring under ITSI, under the ITSI banner. Monitoring AWS and Azure and GCP, that's in beta today. You should stop by the booth, take a look at it. Again, both these will largely be available with the ITSI license. That's in beta, so that's not set in stone, but VMware is. Enhanced capabilities around Unix and Linux. For those of you who use SAI today, we're not taking any of the features away that are free today and making them paid. They remain, so that remains available to you. We made improvements there. So with that, I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes on the demo. Let me pull away from this. And let's jump into the demo. You may have seen some of it today in the morning in the presentation, but this is a much more of a deep dive demo that you're going to see than you saw in the morning. When you start using ITSI and there's a configuration set up for ITSI, this is the kind of view that your analysts will probably be using. There's also the glass tables, the prettier, nicer glass tables. You could start from there too, but I'm going to give you the view that's most likely going to be the ones that you use. This could be viewed in a tile fashion. I've chosen to view it in this topology view. Let's take a look at what's happening over here. This is my Buttercup store. So when we say services in ITSI, one thing to keep in mind is that a service is a set of KPIs. So it could be a business service with business KPIs like revenue, user counts, and things like that. But it could also be a very technical service like the on-prem database in this case. And what you can see in this case, I'm going to move this up over here. The on-prem database, there's a problem, there's an indicator. I'm going to go check out what's wrong with it. I'm going to click on it. And why do I care about this? Because if I click on the online Buttercup store, I can see that there are business KPIs that are impacted by this particular outage wherever it's happening. That's why I care about it. That's how I'm prioritizing what I'm focusing my time on. I'm going to go ahead and click on the on-prem database because I can just visually check all the way down that this is one of them. Cloud database is also an issue, but I'm going to click on the on-prem database because that's how the demo is set up. So with that, I'm going to it's very obvious that disk space is the one that is creeping up. Used space is creeping up. Obviously, something is running out of space. Click on that, and immediately I see that MySQL 02, which is the same thing that Faya showed in the morning, is the issue. But let's drill down into that just a little bit. So it's all good to know that this is a problem, but I need evidence why it broke. I need to be able to verify what changed. What has changed in my environment for this to happen? Or is it a recurring issue? So let's click on Deep Dive, which allows me to jump much deeper than I am right now at a higher level. So I've already started to get down to the root cause. Over here, you'll start seeing that this is a very common deep dive. Again, I'm jumping out from the demo for a second. This is the kind of dashboard that customers will mail me sometimes saying, hey, look, ITSI found this. It'll be fairly green. One thing has gone yellow. Right? This is the kind of stuff that they're trying to get to, which means, what does that really mean? It means that, hey, no one from any other team found out there was a problem. I fixed it well before they found out. Everything's green. Right? That's what customers want to do with ITSI. So in this case, you can see there's a disk space problem. I've already expanded this out to all the three sort of SQL servers that are down there over there. You can see MySQL 02 is the one that's an issue. And the other thing I can do is look at all the change events. And this is pretty cool because this one is showing change events, but you could also have errors on here. So it's a mixing and matching of metrics and events data, all in one timeline-based view. And this is what customers really like about ITSI because, yeah, you get the high-level views, that's all great, but when I'm troubleshooting, don't make me go to 10 different tools to find the source of the issue. That's one of the key reasons that they care about ITSI. So given that I've kind of narrowed it down to a change event, I'm not going to make you go through the same demo as in the morning. Let me jump to what do I do about this? Because surely I want to be able to create alerts, alert myself on this because I'm not always going to be looking at dashboards. So ITSI is set up for you to automatically alert yourself and prevent the same type of issue from happening again. So we call that a multi-KPI alert. That'll go generate what we call a notable event. We'll come back to that in a second. So in this scenario, I've likely probably created an alert or created an incident and asked that team or someone to restart that machine or fix it. That's probably what I'm doing at this point. Now, I can go further down. So I may stop here and say this is enough. We talked about how ITSI and SAR are going to be joined at the hip. So what does that actually look like today? And obviously in the future, it'll be much more smooth and different. But this is the SAI interface today. This is what SAI looks like. It's a very powerful product. It's all built on the metric store completely, so it's very snappy, very quick. Most of what you look at over here are metrics from all your devices, all your servers, and things like that. You get an overview dashboard that shows you the health overall of that particular server. In this case, I'm interested in MySQL 02, but you could be looking at anything else. But as you analyze, you get to see what's going on with specific metrics. So I'm going to shift this to the last 6 hours, and I'm going to pick the metric that I care about, which is the same one that we're looking at, which is disk space used. And what you'll see immediately in disk space used over here is that this disk space spikes up around this time. And that's basically what this is. I just wanted to show you the SAI interface because often as you're troubleshooting, it's not like you're going to be always rooted to one screen. You're going to probably jump down into SAI to get that level of detail and play around with metrics and quickly snap them onto the screen. It's very, very quick, very fast, built on the metric store, and very easy to sort of drill down to certain sections and just look at it. So it's truly a metrics-driven product for your traditional architecture and infrastructure. Now, I'm going to make a transition into the content packs that I talked about. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I want to talk a bit about predictive, but I'm not going to go too deep. We can talk about it at the end. Predictive is one of our very popular features that brings people into ITSI. You'll see this thing over here. I couldn't get it timed properly, so we're just going to live with it. It says the future prediction of that particular service is at 89. The current one is at 70, is at 50. Predictions operate on your current health score and how we think is going to how we think is going to behave in the future. Now, often what you'll have is a predicted health score that is bad and a current health score that's good. And what customers do immediately after that is click on that icon over there. Unfortunately, as I said, I couldn't time it well because it truly is predicting on this data. It is not a full demo instance that I'm showing you over here. And what you get is the predicted health score. In this case, it just happens to be very high. But if it was bad, it'd still look the same in terms same sort of dashboard, just be red. you also get a list of all the KPIs that you should be looking at that are probably going to be bad in the future. So we start giving you some sort of root cause analysis by saying, look at these KPIs, not every KPI on the screen. So you can start looking at the KPIs that are going bad and start focusing on them, jumping into deep dive, getting the right teams involved. This truly does work, but as I said, there's a caveat as to get here, you need to have some reasonable thresholds on your KPIs. So if you have dashboards in ITSI, and this shouldn't really happen with ITSI, but if you have dashboards that are constantly red but everything's fine, you're going to get crappy predictive results. So you kind of want good KPIs, healthy KPIs with good thresholds where green means green, orange means orange, red means red, that kind of stuff. And that's the tuning you really have to do. To set up a predictive model is very trivial. You follow a wizard that we've created for you, and you can set up most of these predictive models very easily. The setup of the predictive model is not the issue. It's getting the right data that you need. So that covers a bulk of the service insights. There's one more portion I wanted to show you. As I said, we announced those content packs. I'm not going to go through all the content packs today, but I wanted to show you some of the glass tables that come with these content packs. And some of these are just to illustrate what you can do with ITSI. So some of these content packs are just content packs that help you say, hey, I can have an operational executive visibility dashboard. What should it look like? What should the KPIs on it be? So that's the kind of stuff we're trying to do for our customers. So here's a glass table. I can go into full screen. Let me show you I'll show you just one of them in full screen. This tells you, this is very much something you can put in front of an executive management team and say, look at these KPIs, everything's healthy over here, these are the things that are broken. Other glass tables that we've added, and all these things are not finalized, so we got many, many more coming out. This is your checkout funnel, so we give you some KPIs around how if you're looking at someone e-retail, for example, how is your flow of checkouts going on your environment. Glass tables like this is the airport, this is SFO specifically, this was shown a few days back, and so on. The final thing in service monitoring as we start wrapping up the demo is how do you get those thresholds? If I keep saying that you have to have good thresholds, are you going to do all of these one by one? Of course not. So what you're probably going to do is look at a 7-day view of your KPI. This is a real KPI. We actually took it from our environment. All we're really doing is replaying the same day over and over again. So the week looks very identical. But the actual data was not far from looking like this. So every day looked largely like this. So if this is what your environment looks like, this is normal. You can't have static thresholds on this. You need different thresholds for different times in the day. And so that's basically what we've enabled with ITSI. What you can do is you can select a threshold template. You can apply quantile, range, standard deviation. We'll give you the choice. None of these are that complicated, so we explain what they are, in the docs, but you don't have to be an expert on them. You can just test them out, basically. You can apply adaptive thresholding, and within a second, you'll get to see what the thresholds for this particular KPI look like. Give it a second here. There we go. So by doing that, I've essentially recommended thresholds to myself. And I can do this for all the KPIs and save myself quite a bit of time in setting the right thresholds. Might I come back and change them later on? Of course, you can come back and tweak them. Have different sections of the day be static thresholds and other sections of the day be dynamic thresholds. It's really up to you. Our templates obviously give you a good starting point to do whatever you want, to have an easy button, but you can always go in and say Saturday and Sunday I want to set static thresholds for Saturday and Sunday. And many customers do that. They'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as dynamic thresholds, and Saturday and Sunday are static thresholds. It's their choice. So we let you play around with it once you've set it up. And you can then take that template for the KPI that you've built and save it and apply it to other KPIs. So you're not constantly redoing this all the time. So this is how you set up those KPIs and thresholds and things like that. Finally, I'll talk about I've talked about service monitoring. I've talked about infrastructure monitoring. Let's talk about event management. This really is a use case around event noise reduction. And this is the one that competes against things like Tivoli, Netcool, Omnibus, old event management tools, and even contemporary event management tools. So let's talk about what this is. Visually, it's a very traditional looking dashboard. We've added, as of this release, some additional things. We give you some stats right at the top as to how well the team is performing around noise reduction, how well the product is performing, but also how well the team is performing. This team is pretty bad because it takes 57 minutes to acknowledge an event. But time to resolve, episodes by severity, how many are acknowledged, how many are not acknowledged. You can see a very small sliver has been acknowledged in my environment. And then finally, you can actually look at all the events. So I'm going to take a look at the same issue that I was showing you before. We had the on-prem database issue, and I'm going to drill down into it. You can see over here, it says 46. These are episodes, these are not alarms. What we have done is applied noise reduction, and what you see on the screen is a reduced set of events that you're looking at. So this has 46 notable events underneath it, and is representing 46 notable events and saying that the root cause is the on-prem database. When you click on it, you get a bunch of information. You can get things like what else is impacted. If you have actually built services in your environment, you get a sense of what services are impacted. Should I care about this? Show me the event timeline. Tell me what went wrong first. What are the common fields in these events? What are similar episodes from the past that are similar to this particular episode? And what was done to fix them? I can actually click on one of these episodes and see if there's any ServiceNow tickets associated with this particular episode. So this is how you start getting to root cause way, way, way faster, by just looking at what the historical episodes are, what are similar things that have been done in the past, and so on. Now, obviously, what you want to do next is probably do something. Probably create a ServiceNow ticket or auto-remediate something. That's largely what this event management tool allows you to do, both ad hoc. In this example, I'm showing you a very ad hoc method of doing it, where I can just go in and say, for these episodes, I want to run this script, I want to email someone. But I can also do it by applying these notable event aggregation policies, and these are very, very commonly used. They do two things. One, they will cluster the events into episodes. So how did I, first of all, get those episodes? How were they created? Well, these aggregation policies create those episodes. So I'm going to pick on this one. It's just a random one that I'm picking. And it shows you how I can apply filtering criteria or machine learning, which is called smart mode. And that enables me, I'm not going to actually go through the whole smart mode setup, but I can pick and choose what fields I can apply within the machine learning, and I can apply them. I'm not going to do it in the interest of time, because we're running out of time a little bit. And then once I'm getting the filtering set up the way I want, which means I'm getting the episodes the way I want them to, I can have conditional rules as to what I should do when I get those episodes. Should I email somebody? If this then that kind of a builder. When this happens, go ahead and change the status, or create a ServiceNow ticket automatically, or run this script and automatically fix this, or create an incident in VictorOps. It's really my choice. So the whole list of actions you saw in the previous screen, they are here as well, so I can send an email, I can do whatever I want. This is also something that can be extended. So if you have specific integrations that you need in your organization, you can just add them. They're basically Splunk alert actions, and they pop in over here, and slight modification to make them show up in ITSI, and you can basically use them with ITSI. And we've got a pretty rich, we've got an SDK that comes with it, so we teach you how to build one of these. But they're also bidirectional. So the ServiceNow integration, for example, is purely bidirectional. If you create a ticket in ServiceNow and you close it in ServiceNow, it'll close the episode in ITSI. So that's how we've set that up. Now, we've not done it all the way like that for BMC Remedy, but it'll come soon after this. ServiceNow was the most important thing. And you can also string together as many actions as you'd like for as many conditions as you'd like. So you can do quite a lot of stuff over here. Many of our customers start off with basically what they've tried to do is automate a bunch of events away, so their teams are only focused on the events that truly require people's attention, not the stuff that is recurring. Like, for example, the database issue, the way the demo is set up, it goes up, and then the disk space goes down, and then it goes up again. In a real environment, if that's happening, you're likely to be your sort of patchwork fix, which is what this might be in this case, is let me just create an automation script that restarts that server or kills it and spawns a new one. Right? That could be a short-term fix for your environment. So with that, I will let you get to your alcohol as soon as possible. The ITSI is available. You can go ahead and get a trial version from your sales rep. You can get a cloud proof of value instance from, again, working with your sales teams. And finally, there's also tons of workshops. So everyone says, well, how do I know what services I should monitor? We have workshops that our team comes down to flies out, or they will do it just on the cloud. Well, they'll work with you to break down your services into, essentially it's called a service decomposition exercise, where we build one of those glass tables, we build those KPIs for you, and it's a free one-day exercise. So with that, I thank you for your time at the end of the day. I know it's difficult to come by, but thank you.